Good morning, students. So, in the previous part, we were discussing about the judiciary, and many more points I discussed. We discussed on that day. Now, today we are going to discuss about the important role of Supreme Court. So, there are some important role of Supreme Court. So, number one is custodian of democracy. So, what is happening here in a democracy? The interest of common people have to be protected against the arbitrary acts of those in power and authority. Supreme Court has always stepped in whenever the authorities have attempted to overstep their constitutionally determined jurisdiction. By taking an activist position, it has tried to ensure the observance of human dignity in society. So it is always be in favor of the citizens. And second is guardian of the federal constitution. Okay, these points you have to keep it in your mind. A federation involves the distribution of powers between the central government and the constituent states, and Supreme Court intervenes to settle disputes that may arise between the center and the states. ठीक है, सेंटर से या फिर स्टेट से कोई भी जो डिस्प्यूट्स होते हैं उनको सॉर्ट आउट करने की प्रॉब्लम को सॉर्ट आउट करने की कोशिश की जाती है. Third is final interpreter of the Constitution. So, what is this? As an impartial and independent guardian of our Constitution, Supreme Court has always upheld its provisions whenever attempts were made to sideline them. And fourth is protector of fundamental rights. Okay, to protect fundamental rights. So Supreme Court along with the high courts is ultimate protector of the fundamental rights guaranteed to the Indian citizens by the constitution, right? The Supreme Court and high court can issue rights or directions to the government and other authorities. Okay, next is as a court of record. So as a court of record, the judgment of Supreme Court are recorded for evidence and testimony, and as such they are in the nature of precedents that can be produced before any court of law. Following them, the high courts and other courts are bound to give similar decisions in similar cases, right? Next is administrative role and functions. So students, you have to read this chapter. It is very important. If you will not read it, you will not be able to understand. So whatever the points which I am telling you, you have to note it down also. So the Chief Justice of India or any other judge, he or she may direct, makes appointments of officers, employees, servants, right? Supreme Court of the Supreme Court. It makes rules regarding the conduct of advocates and other persons appearing before it, and also rules on covering fees to be charged in the matter of proceeding in the court. Clear? Next is number 7, I should say, power to review its own judgment. Okay, what I said, power to review its own judgment. So the judgments and works of Supreme Court are after all carried by human beings, and as such may be fallible. Thus the court has the power to correct a decision or judgment that was a result of misjudgments, right? And next is public interest litigation. So, what is happening here? In recent years, the courts have given several judgments and directives to protect public interest and human rights. Anyone can approach the courts if public interest is hurt by the actions of government. So, this is called public interest litigation. Okay, so public interest is hurt by the action of government. It should be, ये बहुत important है. And the courts intervene to prevent the misuse of government's power to make decisions. So they check the malpractices on the part of public officials. That is why the judiciary enjoys a high level of confidence among the people. Clear? So there are some words which you have to read, and please mention these key words glossary in your notebook, also in your practice notebook you have to do, and these are very important, student. Now one more point which I have missed last in the last video, that was about the power of prime minister. I didn't discuss this topic last video. So in power of the minister, because before that we discussed about the power of uh, president. Okay, so as a head of the government, of the prime minister has wide ranging powers. He chairs cabinet meetings, he coordinates the work of different departments. Once the prime minister has been appointed by the recommended to the president, the name of person who are to be appointed to the council of ministers. The ministers hold office at the pleasure of the president. Okay, so the prime minister exercise general provisions of different ministries. And always, I think you have heard during the lockdown also, most of the decision you feel like it was taken, it has been taken by the prime minister. Okay, but here who is assigning this decisions? Through the president, right? So the prime minister distributes and redistributes work to the ministers, and he also has the power to dismiss ministers. When the prime minister quits, the entire ministry quits. Clear? So thus, if the cabinet is most powerful institution in India, within the cabinet it is the prime minister who is most powerful. The power of prime minister in all parliamentary democracies of world have increased so much in recent times that parliamentary democracies are sometimes seen as prime ministerial form of government. Clear? So the cabinet discusses all sorts of problems under the chairmanship of the prime minister. All decisions of the cabinet are unanimous. The ministers hold one or even more portfolios, right? So apart from formulating and determining national policies, the cabinet is also responsible for their execution through the executive wing of the government. So the cabinet takes decisions about the bills to be introduced in the ensuing session of Lok Sabha. Drafts of these bills are approved by the cabinet before introduction in the parliament. So this was about the power of minister, prime minister. So this chapter is over, student, and then you have to, one thing which you have to do, you have to read this chapter very carefully. Okay, so thank you so much everyone.